sorry guys for cutting the video by himself. So as you can see, I'm playing this word instead of the best survival word I have. Is my friend here? Okay, Void is not here. It's completely fine. And I might go to my hardcore world. No, I believe I'm gonna die. So no. I'm gonna go to the that word. Yeah, that word. Yeah, dot. So, don't you know why I cut the video by itself? Because I didn't have enough space in my... What the fuck? That's my hardcore. Wait, this is hardcore. Oh, this is the base I grinded on. I forgot about that. Whoa, yeah. It took 4 hours of building this. It seems easy as in your eyes, but been hard for mines. Not for mines. So guys, I'm in full nether armor. These are my enchantments. Not my enchant table. This is another portal. These are the chests, and these are smithing. This is smithing table, crafting table, a loom table, and an ender chest. So these are my previous stuff, guys. So switch these, whatever, and yeah. I'm gonna go to my. I don't really have fireworks. Bro, fireworks are over there. Like, over there. Bro, should I actually die just teleport there? Yeah, I'm just gonna find it where and treat. Is Vi dying? Okay, I just got teleported. Now, let's get some rockets. So, guess who's the admin? My brother. Well, it is my server, but I allowed him to be my admin for the rest of the year. Hello, so I have to put the best skills that I have to show you guys. So, main, sword. Not really, but a little bit, but I'm not that good at sword. Please don't fall lava. Finally, bro. Explode and come back. Get up. I'm trying to find a bastion. Bastiono. Okay. Come on. I died, bro. God, that was not the best kill that I had. So, guys, I'm actually so sorry what just happened right now. But this is the best kill. Well, I didn't try to swim in lava. I accidentally... I'm just going to the end. Almost got cut out there. Guys, never jump when you find an elytra. Elytro. Actually, guys, if you jump, actually gonna like this, like I'm jumping, right? And I'm falling. So don't do that. You can hold the jump button, but me just stop jumping right now. And I completely destroyed the end all by myself. A little PvP here, my brother. And defeated the Ender Dragon with a mace. What I did all by myself because he didn't really want to join the server because he was feeling a little sick. So yeah. Now he's pretty good. Guys, I have to get a water bucket, but I actually don't know how to get a water bucket. I'm gonna clutch this. Oh, I did clutch it, but... Oh, 1.5 hearts. No PvP? Come on. Easy. You in PvP? Huh? Really? Guys, Bedrock, Endermans, if you look at their eyes, they won't even care. Yeah, nothing. Bro, if my brother was here PvP, bro, I was gonna show you guys the coolest mace trick. I'm just gonna... Guys, I'm gonna respawn the Ender Dragon in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Yep. Already did my job. Let's defeat it. I need clutch. Boom! Okay, down nose. Let's go in there and treat it. And so dragging together. So if you know why I got it in Elytra, I got it from the random block. And enchantments too. Guys, bro, I'm not joking. I ain't lying, y'all. If I was lying, you guys don't subscribe to my channel, right? Yeah, I'm not. Person to do with that. Hi, newbie. You giant nose. Okay, maybe that guy's... Guys, that was literally a water bucket clutch. Guys, maybe I should get a totem or something. Now I'm good with a totem. Guys, if I die 3 more times, you better unsubscribe. I mean 5. If I die 5 times, you better unsubscribe, buddy. If you don't want to subscribe, it's actually fine. I'm sorry. My channel's pretty cool, right? Who doesn't agree with me? So every single time when I PvP with my brother, I keep losing. Right? Yeah, I think he hears me. Cristiano. Bada boom! So I hope my brother joins my world. And ching ching ching.
Yeah?
Oh my god!
What? I don't want to go to Sam's. What?
Give us that. Wait. What the heck? I hope my brother joins this word.
I can't.
Wait, are you trying to?
Yeah, what is a survival world, bro?
Huh? You mean to reload? Or are you good? That's why Shava told him, people. First of all, when did I even get a totem? Second of all, what is this? Totem like that water bucket clutch? Subscribe if you do. And like if you don't. I mean, yeah, don't mean nothing. What was that? Guys, I'm actually gonna do my word. 3, 2.
How about
Let's
tomorrow?
play some Roblox. Hello, guys. I'm back in Greaseland, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but back. I said I'm gonna play Roblox. I'll try to play Roblox. Okay, I gotta buy my own crusty musty car. Don't have enough money because I'm broke. Yep, I'm broke. Real life, I'm not. Actually, I have to reconnect.
You can go deeper into the stories you hear on the daily at nytimes.com/daily.
My brother's just practicing.
That's it for the daily.
My brother's just practicing making
See you tomorrow.
Shosha Cube, I guess.
It's not Shosha.
I mean, whatever you call it.
With AI, good taste from American Public Media.
No, you're not using it.
I'm Megan McCarty.
I know how to breathe. It's just because of the wind charger.
Generative AI.
Just a miss, like,
Text, images, video in seconds. Without expert human instruction, the
I'm just gonna do my brother.
Most basic sense, taste is just about what you respond to, how you
Okay, this
respond
is the
to
worst
things in your environment, whether that's a book,
cheating is very
painting,
on.
even like a lamp. Like if you see a lamp, do you like it? Do you hate it? And it's shaped by a lot of things. Like it's shaped by our upbringing.
And
by
3, 2, 1, boom, guys! I'm in my creative.
like this.
You can
I mean, I think
build
what it
stuff,
demonstrates is that there
cool
are people
stuff,
who are noticing this problem, right?
like
That
cool
AI
stuff,
is producing what we
like,
call sloth,
should I build
bad,
like
ugly images, writing that's inelegant. It's clear
like
that
a
we're
rich
trying
house?
to
I'm
solve
gonna
that problem, and if
build a rich
the end
house.
result is that we get AI that produces
cool
higher
stuff.
quality design or better writing, that doesn't seem like, that seems like a good
First,
thing
I'm gonna
to me
start
on the
with
whole.
right.
I
Wait,
do
guys,
think that's really different from
I'm gonna do
taste,
beacon.
because if
I'm
what
gonna-
they're doing
I'm gonna do
is
beacon.
simply curating
I'm gonna do beacon.
quote-unquote better data sets,
I mean, I'm gonna make a beacon.
different kinds of people's preferences, you're still in that problem of the average, and you're still not.
First, we still need life and nature.
Has its own taste, of course. You're just trying to inject a bit of what some set of people thinks is good taste into that equation,
Let's go.
which I think you kind of end up in the same. It's a bit of a loop.
So it's critic
First, I'm building a house.
Sophie Hagley. And it turns out there's already a term for this kind of slick, high-quality-ish AI output. It's being called taste sloth. Courtney Birdseeker produced this episode. I'm Megan McCarty Carino, and that's Marketplace Tech. This is APM.
WFAE recognizes Appalachian Theater of the High Country as a founding member of our corporate circle. We're grateful for their support and commitment to local independent journalism that informs and strengthens our region. Hi, I'm Candace Johnson, Executive Director of Membership here at
retirement, graduation, or simply send a heartfelt shout out. Your personalized message will air on WFAE throughout the day, honoring someone special while directly supporting the WFAE programs you value. Learn more at WFAE.org/program sponsor.
From English to Russian, the diverse web of languages spoken in the West are more connected than we think.
The Indo-European languages, of which there are about 400 living today, are now spoken by nearly half of humanity.
A look at the early language that birthed so many others and how researchers study an ancient language with no written text. That's next time on Think.
This evening at 9 o'clock. This is 90.7 WFA Charlotte, 90.3 WFAG. A great listen anytime on the WFAE app or at WFAE.org. Charlotte's NPR News Service.
From 90.7 WFAE, this is Charlotte Talks. Most thinking people consume news, but increasingly they get that news from untraditional, often unvetted sources. This at a time when the news media is under attack as never before from politicians who like to become a propaganda outlet. Former Charlotte Observer editor Rick Thames believes that part of the blame is with the media itself. We're not doing a better job of explaining to someone how it works. But he also makes the case that a strong media is vital to holding power to account in his book, Why Local News, a memoir of clean or endangered form of journalism. He shares his thoughts this hour on Charlotte Talks. First, the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Ryland Barton. Israeli settlers have besieged 3 homes in the occupied West Bank for several days. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee referred to the settlers as terrorists. That's an unusually sharp rebuke for Huckabee, who has said Israeli Jews have a biblical right to settle the West Bank. NPR's Daniel Estrin has more on Israel's response.
I spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's foreign policy advisor. His name is Ophir Fund, and he said that the settlers in this case, he called them vigilantes, and he said that these incidents are sporadic compared to the frequency of Palestinian attacks on Israelis. The United Nations has documented that since the Gaza war began, 44 Israelis have been killed in the West Bank and more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed there.
NPR's Daniel Estrin reporting. Ukrainian drones knocked out power in Crimea's largest city, the latest in a series of attacks. The Ukrainian air campaign has upended life in the territory that Russia seized 12 years ago. NPR's Greg Myrie has the details.
Crimea is usually packed with families enjoying beach vacations in summer. But Ukraine's drone strikes, like the latest one in Sevastopol, are causing frequent blackouts, cuts in cell phone service, and days with no running water. Crimea was the first place Russia seized when it initially invaded Ukraine in 2014. But Ukraine is now challenging Russia's hold on the Black Sea Peninsula with almost daily airstrikes from afar. Many of Crimea's basic supplies are imported from Russia by ship. Ukraine is also attacking these Russian vessels, saying it has hit more than 200 in the past month. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Kyiv.
Federal prosecutors and Luigi Mangione's defense team will hold a special court conference tomorrow morning, raising speculation that the two sides may have reached a plea agreement. Mangione is accused of shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a New York City hotel in 2024. The two sides requested the surprise hearing less than a month before Mangione's state trial is set to begin. Wholesale industry has more on a report from the Department of Labor.
Prices at the wholesale level are climbing more slowly now, much like prices at the retail level. A new report from the Labor Department shows wholesale prices in July were up 4.7% from a year ago. That's a smaller annual increase than the 5.5% jump for the 12 months ending in June. Wholesale prices were flat between June and July. The news is likely to be welcomed by inflation fighters at the Federal Reserve, although prices are still climbing faster than the central bank would like. Investors are betting the Fed will feel less pressure to raise interest rates when policymakers meet next month. Still, bond markets are signaling that other interest rates on things like mortgages may go higher. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR News. Investigators say an engine fan blade broke off on a Ryanair flight and shattered a plane window shortly after takeoff in Greece last month. That caused a man's head to be sucked into the hole in the fuselage before fellow passengers pulled him to safety. The National Transportation Safety Board says it found bird remains inside the engine, which suggests the plane may have struck birds as it took off. Wildfires in Nevada have forced about 13,000 people to evacuate. Together, the Bug and Stallion fires have burned more than 122,000 acres. From member station KUNR, Caleb Radel reports.
The fires are burning north of Reno, near the California state line. Kelsey Kuzmic wasn't home when the fire reached her property. She returned Wednesday and described the scene at a community meeting.
Honestly, kind of apocalyptic, just scary, really. It was, yeah, apocalyptic. It was just, everything is charred.
Firefighters are still working to contain the blazes, but the weather could make that harder in the coming days. Thunderstorms are expected through Friday. They may bring some helpful rain and higher humidity. They can also bring lightning and strong winds. Then hotter and drier conditions are expected this weekend. That could mean more active fire behavior. For NPR News, I'm Caleb Radel in Reno.
Baseball is returning to the Field of Dreams in an Iowa cornfield this hour with a game between the Minnesota Twins and Philadelphia Phillies. Inspired by the 1989 movie starring Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones, the game's played on a major league regulation field amidst the corn rows of Dyersville, Iowa. This is NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing a transformative approach to justice that is community-led, restorative, and racially just. Learn more at publicwelfare.org. And the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
I'm Mike Collins. On the next Charlotte Talks Local News Roundup, CMS Superintendent Crystal Hill is back in the driver's seat, but we still know little about what led to her suspension. Democrats on City Council are uneasy about the push for CMPD to apply for a federal Make America Safe Again grant. We'll tell you why. And Republicans choose Jennifer Balcom to replace Chuck Edwards in the 11th District congressional race. Those stories and more with our roundtable of reporters tomorrow at 9.
Support for Charlotte Talks comes from Mazda of South Charlotte.
This is Charlotte Talks. I'm Mike Collins. The news media is going through tough times. It's being attacked by politicians who view news coverage they don't like as fake and biased. And it is experiencing the collapse of the business model that once supported major operations, allowing newspapers, radio, and television to deploy vast resources to bring you the news that you need in a democracy. No media has suffered more than local news outlets. Newspapers have shuttered. Those that have stayed open have downsized drastically. And communities nationwide, including here in North Carolina, are increasingly bereft of local news coverage. If the job of journalism is to keep voters informed and to hold power to account, this is a nightmare. And not just for the industry, but for you. Rick Thames had a front row seat to all of this. He also came of age as a newspaperman in the heyday of those publications. Over the course of his career, he rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the editor of the Charlotte Observer at a time when they ruled the roost, a time when no one could touch them for the depth or breadth of their coverage. Well, now Thames has written a book about both his experiences and his prescriptions for what ails the industry. Why Local News, a memoir and plea for an endangered form of journalism is the name of that book, and Rick Thames joins us for the hour. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Mike. It's good to be with you all.
Let's start with public confidence in media. What do you think is driving that decline in confidence?
Well, it's a combination of things, but root. A lot of it has to do with the loss of trust in journalists in general, and many factors come to play there. Some of it was not the fault of journalists themselves. It was things that were being done to journalism. But at the end of the day, it's up to journalists to regain that trust. And I think that there are ways they can do that, largely by listening to their audiences and giving them what they really need.
I mean, is the decline in confidence, the lack of trust, the loss of trust, is it because, as you said, things that were done to journalism, was it done to journalism by outside forces or by inside forces?
Well, it was a combination, but there were a lot of it was coming from the outside. Journalism, at its base, is not political, but a lot of politics came into play as people demonized journalism. And I first began to realize this not at the Observer, but later as I was executive editor of the Wichita Eagle, and I would get these calls and emails from people who were upset about some aspect that the Eagle was not covering, and for the longest time I couldn't figure out what it was about. Well, so I finally figured out that it was the daily diatribe from Rush Limbaugh. So this was many years ago, and Rush Limbaugh was one of the earliest people that I could identify who did his best to undermine quality local journalism.
And the motivation for that was what, in your opinion?
Well, there was a political point of view, obviously, and he would tell you that he was an entertainer, not a journalist. But it was also financial. I think it was.
Well, yes. If you say something is whatever it is, in this case, fake news, and you say it over and over and over again, and you're either a politician or you are a media star, and there's no question that Rush Limbaugh, in his heyday, I think he was on 800 or so radio stations around the country, and largely responsible for the right-wing shift in certain media outlets. When you say it day after day, it becomes the truth to a whole lot of people. Can you recover from that?
I think you can, and I think that's happening now with a lot of the startups around the country that are making point of listening closely to their audiences and providing them what they really need, and also being transparent about what they do and how they do it, how they make their decisions. Fortunately, that's coming to vogue, but back in that day, it hadn't hit journalism yet. So I think a lot of that has to do with that transparency.
I just did right now.
And I'm curious, when the president says the media is the enemy of the people, those are pretty shocking words, actually, from an American president. No longer shocking because he says it every day, but initially it was, because it's very un-American to say something like that. But as these outlets grow around the country, these smaller outlets, these platforms that really want particularly local news, is that phrase losing some of its luster, some of its shock value?
Well, I hope so, but I do think a lot of people still believe it, and it's going to take some time for journalists to dissuade them of that. And some of it's about what journalists report on and how they report it, but it's also just about people coming to terms with a lot of what they're hearing is coming from somebody who has an agenda, and that agenda is not to bring you objectively reported news, but to bring you a point of view. And unfortunately, a lot of media has become politicized, polarized, and I think journalists should resist that temptation. It's important that you provide the news in an unbiased basis.
And that, to me, maybe I'm wrong about this, you correct me if I am, we lived through, you and I, and many people of a certain age, lived through a kind of golden age of relatively nonpartisan newspapers, except for the editorial pages and television newscasts. And now the reverse is true, and it's kind of a return to a form that existed throughout the 18th and 19th and 20th, early 20th centuries. Did we live through some sort of an anomaly?
Well, I suppose historians would suggest that we did, because you're right. I mean, news has long been partisan in America. You go back to the 1700s, the 1800s, and you can see it quite clearly. But at some point, the people who were running news organizations came to understand that their largest audiences could be gotten through writing and reporting the news in a way that everybody could understand it and everybody could believe it, and that happened around the turn of the 20th century.
There's a reason that freedom of speech and freedom of the press is the topic of the First Amendment to the Constitution. When people agree with politicians who are attacking the press, that the press is the enemy of the people, alleging that reporters and news outlets with which they disagree should be brought up on charges, and that's a quote. Do you think that these folks lack a basic understanding of what the First Amendment and what the founding principles of the country are all about, or are they actively working to undermine those principles and create something new?
The worst of them out there are actively undermining it. There are many others who just don't understand it, and so they're easily misled by those folks. And so, I think, one of the things we've lost is in our schools is the teaching of civics. A lot of our students growing up, they have no idea how their government's supposed to work, and so they end up misunderstanding who's in charge and what they can do and what they shouldn't be doing. And we've seen this quite clearly in recent times. I think that it's important for journalists to continuously remind people of how our government is supposed to work, what a democracy is supposed to look like, and to be that educator as well as just providing news.
And this is the fact that civics seems to take a back seat in high schools around the country. Is that deliberate, or is that just an oversight because we keep tinkering with education?
I think it was an oversight. I don't think it was deliberate. I just think that the people in charge of our schools, in trying to push in everything that they needed for their students, or they thought they needed for their students, they allowed that to fall by the wayside. I believe that you see some of that returning, but not enough of it. There are just too many people out there who don't realize, as a voter, you're supposed to be the boss. You're the person who's going to hire, who's going to do these jobs. And in order to do that well, you've got to know what they stand for and what they plan to do. And it's your right to know that. And journalists are there to help you find that out. That's the point of journalists, really. They're there to advocate for the public.
Yeah, not all of the criticism that has been leveled at the media is coming from policymakers and elected officials who just don't like the coverage that they're receiving and would prefer that we go away. Some of the criticism is coming from rank and file people who consider reporters particularly to be Budinsky's. And this maybe it grew out of television news, where they'll go to a bereaved family who has lost a family member through any number of means, and have to ask them a question like, "How are you feeling?" Well, what a stupid question. But nonetheless, the news cycle demands it, and that's what we have to do. But you say that is not why we're not butting ourselves into things that are none of our business. You say what we do is we're doing it not for ourselves. We're doing it for consumers. I'm taking the long way around here. Why is that motivation? The fact that we're trying to uncover information for the reader, for the viewer, for the listener. Why is that so often lost?
Well, I had a rule in my newsrooms, and that was, and I learned that rule very hard in my own reporting, and that is, when you're going to take the public to a place where it would not have gone on its own and wishes it wouldn't be there, it's very important that you tell them at that time why you're doing that and why it matters. And I think a lot of times journalists miss that point. They assume that the public will understand their motivation, what they're there to do, and why it's important, but they need to explain it. And that was one of my early lessons as a reporter, and then later as an editor. I wrote many columns explaining, yes, this is tough. I'm sorry that you have to hear this, but it is important that you hear it, and here's why it's important.
In your book, you quote another editor as saying, "If no one reads or watches your work, you aren't producing journalism, you're keeping a journal." And that was to illustrate that you need to find a way to make stories compelling so that people want to read them. But there appears to be a fine line between writing something or creating something or writing a headline that is compelling that makes you want to read the article, and doing something that is sensational or clickbait. Is that a part of the problem or trust in the media today? The fact that the line is so frequently blurred?
This has become so much of a problem, especially with digital journalism, entertainment. It blurs, like you said, and people are too focused, journalists, I should say, are too focused on how many hits they're going to get. The important thing to remember is that if you are providing something for an audience, it's important for it to be compelling, or otherwise they won't miss the message. But it's also important that you not appear exploitive. There's no need to exploit the news. The news itself should be compelling enough.
Is it more difficult to do that in this day and age? In the old days, those were several different editions that came out throughout the subscribers and unsubscribers, etc. Today, the news is out on the website, on the apps that these news organizations have. And the idea to raise the revenue that they need to even keep these smaller operations going, you have to have eyeballs. Is it more difficult to do that today? To be not sensational, but to be compelling?
It's more difficult to hold the public's interest, and you're right, it's minute by minute. I remember when the Observer was transitioning to digital
Guys, I thought that for a second.
and there was a period of time there, the 2006, 2008 range,
Guys, I think I'm ready.
it was important for us, we realized, to air on the web, and we had trouble with it. So
Let me stop you there. We'll come back to that in a moment. Just Rick Thames is our guest. Why local news is the name of his book.
Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Charlotte Talks here on 90.7 WFAE and WFAE.org. I'm Della Free. For tomorrow in Charlotte, the weather is again hot, sunny, a high near 100 degrees. Slight chance of showers for the evening and a low near 76.
It's your world. We help you explore it.
The situation on the border between Spain and Morocco is no longer an emergency.
It's your community. We help you understand it.
Attorney General Jeff Jackson said the permanent tariffs on imports from 80 countries exceed the administration's legal authority and could cost North Carolina households about $1,100 a year each.
Morning Edition is an essential way to start your day and stay connected to your world. Weekday mornings from 5 to 9 on 90.7 WFAE and WFAE.org.
Hello, I'm Joe Kendrick, Program Director at WFAE. One of the things I love about my job is how WFAE programming connects us all 24/7, 365. Knowledge is power, and when we know more about how our communities, region, and our wider world are all connected, that's a win for all of us. Thank you for connecting with WFAE on the radio, on our app, and at WFAE.org.
It's Charlotte Talks on listener-funded 90.7 WFAE and WFAG. I'm Mike Collins. Our guest today, Rick Thames, the former editor of the Charlotte Observer, but that's not the only paper he worked for in his career. He's also the author of Why Local News, a memoir and plea for an endangered form of journalism, which I want to get to in a moment. But we were talking before the break about sensationalism versus compelling stories, and how you draw that line to make sure that what you're doing is compelling and worth reading and consuming, and what is sensational and not worth reading and consuming, because once you get past the headline, there's nothing there. And that seems to have been exacerbated to a great degree by the fact that it's no longer a daily edition, it's a minute-by-minute edition of every publication out there on the web, either on platforms like websites or on apps that come to your phone. And you were talking about the Observer when you first made the transition and realized it had to be on the internet as well as in print. I guess it was a difficult thing to adapt to.
Oh, it really was. We had great debates in our newsroom over how difficult it would be to even post a couple of stories a day on the website. And of course, we look back on that now and say, what were we thinking? But at the time, that was hard. Not only because, it meant we had to change our deadlines and do things differently, but also because our reporters were reticent to put something online before it appeared in print. Of course, that was the thing of the day. But over time, we came to realize that this was our advantage. We could really keep people up to date. The temptation there is not to lead people along and mislead them about what's really happening at a given moment, but to give them new information that really is helpful to the ongoing story. And I do see this being a problem in some news organizations where, as you say, there's just too much emphasis on hits and not enough emphasis on are you really helping your audience. I think that this is changing in some ways now because more news organizations are more reliant on their subscribers if they are for profits, and they realize that their subscribers are not looking for that. They're looking for something more substantial. And as that trend grows, I think that's helping these organizations stabilize and worry less about people flying in on the web from New York or LA, and more concerned about the people in their community and what they need.
So Rick, the name of your book is Why
You think about community and how it forms, and you think about the role that a responsible, good news organization can play, helping a community come to understand itself, meeting people that otherwise would not meet within its community. You look at how now so many Americans are feeling more isolated. They're lonelier. They don't know their neighbors. They don't even know who's going to pick up the trash or when it's going to be picked up. And they're looking for some guidance. Well, journalists can be the pathfinders in those communities. They can be the people who let you know what's happening around you. They can make your life richer, but you need the journalists to be there to help you. And think about this. How many people have suddenly awakened to the fact that there's going to be a data center in their backyard, and that all of this information could have been discovered by a responsible local news journalist had they had one, but instead local officials signed the documents, and now it's too late.
Yeah, we've lost a lot, which we talked about, because in the heyday of the Observer, they had hundreds of journalists and editors and beats that covered the entire region. There wasn't a square inch of territory that they didn't have their fingers into. And today, just going back to the realities of today, in addition to hearing that we are fake news, which we are not, but we keep hearing that, we also hear from ordinary ones and private people that I get news through social media. I don't have a newspaper, I don't watch TV news, I get it through social media, I get it on my phone. And you say that getting news should make you smarter, wiser, and better prepared to help advance a free and self-governing society, and we're quick to add, you won't get there by swimming through random streams of social media. Why not?
You have no idea about the source of that information, unless, of course, it's coming from a responsible news organization. And that social media can be helpful, but you don't get what you need. I mean, that's mixed in with all kinds of misleading messages, political venues, all of these sort of things are mixed in with that, and you're just not getting the truth as it should be reported. So you need to find someone you can trust. You need to understand what their agenda is. Hopefully their agenda is simply to be that public trust and to help people understand themselves, their lives, and their communities better. You will not necessarily find that in social media. You'll find a lot of misleading information in social media, and you need to be very careful about that source that you're